Having played the CBT2 now for over 40 hours, I think I have a pretty solid understanding of what the game currently has to offer, even if I have possibly not discovered everything in the game. We will today talk about the gameplay, the combat, the mechanics, the good and the bad, what can be improved, and last but not least, the story. I won't go deep into the story, so consider this a warning for minor story spoilers for the prologue, but I will also blend in a short warning when we get to it. Secondly, this is my personal opinion on the second beta, which does not reflect the release of the final game, and your experience may be different. The story is being told in a mix of cutscenes, manga-like elements, and visual novel-style storytelling while being fully voiced. The game starts off by having you select your MC, Bell or Wise. Obviously, it is not advised to hesitate for too long here, cause the decision honestly doesn't matter too much, but more on that later. The next cutscene introduces you to the only lore you will care about, followed by a skip button so you can go back to the important lore, where they throw more curse words at you within 10 seconds than all other Hoyo games combined.
I'm pissed. In this nation's report, I can't listen to this anymore. Those criminals need to get as soon as we find them, we should just get them all, and then them again.
Then you get blasted out of the window and thrown into the tutorial. The tutorial itself is very minimalistic and honestly nothing special. Every so often a pop-up window will tell you about the next important mechanic, and because there are so many of them, you will forget about it quite fast anyway and go back to randomly smashing buttons until everything is dead. And that works great during the story, but the game does actually get quite difficult later into the game, so you will actually have to learn these things. Fortunately, your MC is Wise, except if you chose Bell, and wrote down all the tutorial things in this little book, which you are never told about. God, I could continue all these Wise jokes, but that likely wouldn't ring a bell for many people. Anyway, consider this now your minor story spoiler. The bad guy who got blasted with you gets corrupted and transforms into this thing. And even though you defeated him in less than a few seconds, he heals himself a bit and Billy decides it's a good time to run away now. Then you leave the holo and you are slowly introduced to who you actually are. Both MC are referred to as the Phaethion, or Phaethon, or however it is pronounced, and one single line somewhere in between hints at the original Phaethon being missing. So this is definitely not some kind of foreshadowing of your dad or whoever the original Phaethon actually is being evil or something. Anyway, you are playing as a proxy, which to my understanding is basically a leader who takes commissions to lead people in and out of the holos to fulfill certain tasks. These holo raiders, as they are called, also have to stay undercover, as holo raiding is considered not being a very legal activity apparently. Now, it is probably a good time to explain what holos actually are. I'm not sure if I missed it, but I don't think they actually really explained this in the game, so I will just read you the wiki entry. Holos are supernatural disasters appearing out of thin air, creating disordered dimensions where monsters known as the ethereal roam. So, at this point I will cut the prologue story short because it honestly drags out a bit and because it is just a tutorial to the various aspects of the game. Chapter 1 was the part where it actually got interesting to me, but I don't want to spoil most of the story for people here. To summarize the overall plot, these holos killed off all civilizations except for one, New Eridu. They managed to acquire technology to extract resources from these holos and industrialized and monetized them. This leads to various conflicts between the city's administration, gangs, fanatics, and so on. And as you probably guessed, or maybe not, the game doesn't hesitate to kill off important or unimportant characters alike. So while the story starts relatively slow-paced, I think it develops into an interesting direction. During the story, you will gradually be introduced to the various shops and their activities in the 6th Street, which is basically a little hub where you live. You are the owner of a videotape shop, but more on that a bit later. This dog here lets you read newspapers and gives you a daily rap lottery ticket to earn a few Denny's or even film every day. This guy cooks you noodles, which is basically just buff food, but compared to other Hoyo games you might actually want to use these later on into the game. Again, it does get quite hard. This shop here lets you buy various means of coffee, and the first coffee you are being introduced to is this one. It will cost you 1500 Denny's and restores 60 stamina, which I initially thought would never make it into the final game, given how you can spend film, which is the premium currency, to replenish it, but then I noticed that I can only drink one a day because drinking more than one coffee a day is seemingly bad for me. The arcade shop lets you play games such as Snake, and it does have a matchmaking and ranking system, so maybe we can enjoy losing our friends in a match of Snake. There also is an event tab, but it doesn't seem to be open yet. However, maybe we will get some classic arcade games to play such as Space Invaders, Honkai Star Rail Edition, Dragon's Lair, Dwellin, Pac-Man Paimon or Smash TV Chi-Chi Pool Simulator. After 7-Eleven went bankrupt, the 1-for-1 store opened and offers you daily upgrade materials to buy with your Denny's. Reaching Internaut level 15, which is the equivalent to the Trailblazer or Adventure rank level, you unlock daily commissions, and this is where I would like to stop for a moment and pray that these numbers are not beta only. The dailies reward you with 40 film each, which accumulate to one entire pool per day, whereas the weeklies give you a 10 pool and the monthlies an entire 20 pools. I really hope they don't change this. This would be really awesome for free-to-play players. Anyway, heading back into our home, which is again also a videotape store, we can now go and play some VR. Playing VR in this game is basically a really well-designed farming stage. You design your own setup, choose the enemies you want to face and also how many of them, and you will gain rewards based on that. So you can target farm whatever you are in need of against enemies you have built units for. That is a hell of a design choice and I love it. Let me know in the comments what you think of this system. Then the videotape store also has this feature, which I honestly still don't really understand, but it does give me Denny's every day over time, so it's fine. This PC is the main point of gameplay in ZZZ and I will get back to it soon. First we head outside again to the remodeling shop. Here you can improve and level up your bang boos, which you acquire mostly by pulling. They are basically a fourth, non-controllable character you can bring with you when selecting your team, and they will deal some minor damage to enemies every so often and give your entire team stat boosts or buffs, either permanently or periodically. They are also really cute, to be honest. I mean, look at this. On the other side of the 6th street you will find the W Engine store, where you can craft, well, W engines. They are the weapon equivalent of this game. Dismantling W engines gives you currency, which you then can use to craft the W engine you want. On our way back to the video store, we encounter the music store. Basically, you spend this currency here to pull for discs, which are the relics or artifacts of the game. So let's go back to our PC and we can finally play the game. On this screen you can select between the story, side missions, rally and Hollow Zero, which is basically the endgame, at least to my knowledge. The rally is basically just combat without any of the roguelike stuff, which is nice. However, be it the main story, side story or Hollow Zero, the roguelike experience you will experience, I guess, is jumping from TV to TV, solving various puzzles, collecting rewards and fighting some enemies, all while avoiding gaining too much pressure. These boards are honestly quite boring during the initial main story and side stories as well, but more on that later. If you go into Hollow Zero, which is somewhat of an equivalent to MOC or the Abyss, pressure comes into play. Moving around on the TV board increases your pressure, and if it reaches 100 you gain a debuff, which usually is a trade-off effect. For example, enemies take 50% less damage while dazed, but your perfect SS damage is increased by 10%. These effects last the entire run and are cleared when you leave. Then you have various rounds of combat, puzzles, special reward stages and much more, which makes this entire roguelike TV thing actually quite interesting, at least for me. The Hollow Zero is also a bit different in that you don't get your full team. You start off with only one character and you have to unlock the others to join you. During the Hollow Zero you will acquire a variety of Resonium, which are basically blessings. Acquiring a few can trigger a fusion, which will merge multiple into one. Before entering a Hollow, you are prompted to set up your team. For the story mode specifically, they provide you with a preset team at the recommended level, which is really nice. But I cannot play without Nekomiya, so I have to choose my own team. Now is a good time to have a look at the various equipment. Each character can equip a single W engine. Again, these are basically the weapons and don't really behave differently than in other Hoyo games. For the relics or artifacts, which are called discs in this game, you have 6 slots per character. There are 2 and 4 piece bony, but because you have 6 slots, you have a bit more freedom in ZZZ than in HSR or Genshin. As always, the stats are random, but they actually have a secondary main stat slot, so I'm not too sure yet how to acquire these, but that probably makes the grind even more awful. Having that said, let's have a look at the combat. Each character has one of 5 attributes: fire, ice, electric, physical or ether, and one of these 3 fighting styles: slash, strike or pierce. Certain enemy types are weak to specific attributes. Every character has 5 inputs: basic attack, special attack, ultimate, dodge and switch. Most characters also have some kind of special mechanics called a sub-attack, which changes your basic attack pattern when pressing certain buttons at specific times. Basic attacking will generally generate energy, and you can use this energy to enhance your special attack into an EX special attack, which will deal a significant amount of increased damage. Looking at Soldier 11, her scaling goes from 54% to 776% when enhanced, which also makes using non-EX specials feel really bad. Enemies will occasionally attack and indicate that by having a golden or red flash. In either case, that is the time for you to dodge to gain a perfect counterattack. If the flash is golden, switching into another character triggers perfect assist, which will deal some significant damage while still avoiding the attack. You can trigger it a maximum of 3 times until you have to recharge points. Attacking will also apply daze onto enemies, and when the bar is full, enemies get stunned and will take increased damage. Hitting enemies with heavy attacks while dazed will often trigger a chain attack, which is a QTE. They are very strong and, in my opinion, the main part of this game. Doing basically anything attack related will generate decibel, and reaching a score of 3000 will let you use an ultimate. However, the decibel rating is a shared resource, so choose the character you want to use the ultimate from wisely. Having that said, there's more to the combat, such as assist attacks, which are basically a small QTE which triggers when you are hit, and attribute anomalies, which are basically status effects. Hitting enemies enough times with the same attribute damage will apply such an anomaly, for example burn for fire, freeze for ice, or assault and armor break for physical. So, having probably covered most of the game, let's get to the good and the bad. I think I tried to keep the previews as neutral as possible, but from here on this is all my personal opinion. Yours may be different, and that is okay. Let's get it clear. Zenless Zone Zero is a good game, but as of now it has its flaws. The beginning is very slow, and it will take you a few hours to unlock the meaningful parts, which, especially in relation to this TV jump thingy, is a problem. It sets a wrong expectation of what the Hollows can offer later into the game, and this expectation is flat out boring. I fear people will quit before even getting to the good part, and I think that would be quite sad. The game has a lot to offer, but the good is obstructed by layers and layers of problems. Too high stamina costs, which means you have to choose between farming materials and playing the story, the initial Hollow experience being more TVs than combat, and enemies not really feeling special. Like for me, at least until now, it doesn't matter if I face a boss or a normal enemy, I just press switch or dodge whenever a golden or red flash lights up respectively. Bosses mostly just have more HP and that's it. ZZZ will probably also be more time consuming to play, at least as far as I have seen it. Genshin takes just a few minutes a day and HSR even less, but ZZZ might actually take 15 to 30 minutes every day, which could be a turn-off for the more casual player base. This game is also highly based on the reactive inputs. While I personally really enjoy it, it is less chill than the other games, while also being significantly harder. In the end, I hope Hoyo finds a solution to the TV problem, because it is frankly just not engaging early on. Other than that, the game has a lot to offer and I'm looking forward to its full release. So, this script took me actually quite a long time to write, and also I had to play the game for over 40 hours, but I hope it was helpful to you. If you have watched until here, I would appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe for more Hoyoverse content in the future. Thanks for watching. Peace.